I think it's. I think you have to just. Honestly, I think the issue is you have to really look at it on a case by case basis, because the preference shares do have a preference. So you do get a dividend preference here. So the preference shares in the case of Henkel have a slightly higher dividend, but to me it's not a meaningfully higher dividend to explain the valuation, any kind of valuation differential. But they don't have a voting right. So you could argue that they have a slightly higher dividend, and that therefore therefore they're at a premium, because you don't, even if you buy an ordinary share because you're not part of the family, you don't control what's going on anyway. So the ordinary shares shouldn't have any kind of premium for the vote, because the vote is meaningless, which of course, is that true? If you go over certain thresholds, you do clearly have rights as a minority shareholder of the family. In Germany, one of the important thresholds is 75%, and the family doesn't have 75%. So you can have arguments along those lines, but the basic case in most cases is that the preference shares don't have votes, and that they have some kind of preference, typically in the form of dividends. That means that they are that they have this economic right, and very importantly, under German law, they have the same entitlement to ownership of the company. So if they're converted, the question of what ratio they're converted at is always a very important one. But you have an example in the case of another one of the really prominent German companies that has preference shares outstanding is BMW. And in the case of BMW, the ordinary shares are the ones that trade at a premium, and the preference shares trade at a discount. And so in the case of BMW, the preference shares are historically issued to employees. The employees, since they trade and are sold, obviously don't always hold on to them, but rather sell them, which has actually not generally been the right investment decision, but that's what they've done. There's a view that among people that it is in fact the Quandt family, so the owners of BMW, who are buying those shares, and may well be the largest shareholders. Preference share ownership, because it doesn't have voting rights, doesn't have to be reported. So the Henkel family certainly owns some of the prefs. The Quandt family certainly owns some of the prefs, but when I say certainly, I don't know. This is just this is something that people believe. But I think it's quite plausible, because where you have a cheaper share, in the case of BMW, it's the preference shares that are cheaper but have the same rights to ownership. Why wouldn't you? My view is, why wouldn't you buy the cheaper share if you can get yourself comfortable, because you've done the analysis, that your basic economic rights are the same?